I'm Matt Reynolds, and this is my podcast.
I can do the job, but running the business is quite difficult. What a lot of tradesmen lack, and I was probably one of them, is business skills.
I don't mind making mistakes. You learn from your mistakes.
Information is all around you in the minds of people that work beside you.
Welcome back to the Trench Talk podcast. I'm Matt Reynolds. I'm a plumber. And this week I sat down with fellow plumber Ben Walton-Heeley to discuss his first year in business. The idea of these discussions, for those of you joining us for the first time, is to go into the trenches of achievement and talk not with people who are orchestrating from some lofty perspective, but to those high performers who are actually in the trenches honing their craft. That has included guests from the worlds of business, sport and entertainment, all of whom are on the front lines doing amazing things. This episode came out of a number of requests for some insights into the world of small business. Ben worked as a plumber for several years before taking the plunge and starting out on his own. We cover a lot of the nuts and bolts first year business stuff in this episode, including developing a work ethic, finding clients without advertising, setting goals and focusing on the bigger picture. Ben has plans to grow his business, AquaBlu Plumbing, has now begun employing others and has an end goal of spending much more time with his family. This episode is perfect if you have either just started out in business or are considering the move. If you'd like to contact Ben directly, he's happy to answer any of your questions. You can find his email address in the episode notes. Next week, Peter Irvine joins me on the podcast to discuss his work on the marketing team that first launched McDonald's in Australia and then building his company which owned the Gloria Jean's coffee brand. Please remember to hit the subscribe button inside your chosen podcast player to get each episode of Trench Talk on release. Enjoy my chat with Ben Walton-Heeley. Ben Walton-Heeley, thanks for doing this.
Thanks, mate. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to have the chat today.
You're a year in.
Yep.
AquaBlu Plumbing, your business.
Yep.
How's it going?
Yeah, look, it's turned my world upside down very quickly. 15 months into business last week it was.
Right.
And yeah, I've come across a whole stack of challenges and different steps along the way, which hurdles that we've had to jump and build our business from, which is, yeah, it's been a great journey so far.
Are you enjoying it?
Yes, I am. Yep, enjoying it, enjoying the different aspects. Been in plumbing for 10 years now, I guess you could say, nearly, and yeah, enjoying the different challenges that have arisen by opening a business. In the past, I've worked for other businesses and probably more focused on the plumbing side of things and never had to deal with the rest of the challenges that come into play. So, yeah, I've had my fair set of challenges this year, mate, must say.
Now, when did you start thinking about going out on your own? Because you were employed by people previously for a number of years, and then obviously there was a point where you decided, I'm going to have a go, I'm going to have a crack.
Yep.
Do you remember that point?
Yeah. Look, I do. And funny enough, Matt, it was day dot when I started plumbing. I always knew I wanted to run my own business and build my own culture within my business. I actually left school and did a degree in fine furniture making.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I know your story. I didn't know that.
Yeah,
So there you go.
So there you go. So I actually left and did a degree in fine furniture making, which I really do have a passion for, but realised in terms of a business side of things, probably financially wasn't the reward there, and it's a very hard target market that you've got to hit. Then I kind of had an opportunity one day where my previous boss, who has taught me a lot, he gave me a shovel and made me dig a hole, and I think that day, in terms of money, I probably made more that day than I had in the month of being, trying to make something in furniture. And then I thought, I'm on to something here. That grew into an apprenticeship as a mature age. Okay, and
you didn't start till quite late. I didn't know that either.
No, I didn't start till quite late. And look, I did rush through the schooling, or not rush, but I did advance through the schooling. So I was managed. Most kids take 4 years to do their apprenticeship, and then they do their licensing and everything to go into business after that apprenticeship. Now, I was fortunate enough where I did my schooling, they gave me the opportunity to do the licensing while I was doing the apprenticeship stage.
Oh, yeah. So I did the same thing.
Yeah, so basically by the end of the 4 years, I was fully licensed to go out on my own. But yeah, I must say, I probably from day dot, I knew that this is what I wanted to do, and you know, it's funny we talk about trench talk, but it literally was in a trench with a shovel, and it's just growing from there.
So how long were you employed for before you actually made the move?
7 years I was.
Okay.
I was fortunate enough to have a boss that really did have some amazing plumbing skills, and I got to see a lot of things that a lot of plumbers probably wouldn't ever get their hands on, you know. And what I mean by that is kind of in the trade, you know, we call it the old school plumber, you know.
Yeah.
And
well, I think we can say his name, can't we? Wayne, he's a great guy. We both know him.
Yeah, we both know him. Wayne from Laser Plumbing, and he was fortunate enough to allow me to be exposed to probably aspects of plumbing where a lot of other kids getting into the industry or employees don't often get to see such a wide variance of work.
And what sort of work were you predominantly doing? I know you're doing a lot of, at certain times you're doing a lot of after-hours work, you're doing a lot of shopping centre work.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's probably where we both went hand in hand in terms of we did do long hours. I always have had work ethic. That's never scared me, you know, doing long hours. And he was still doing long hours at his age, which definitely is a form of inspiration, because it is that thing of he still has the passion for it. And we were getting our hands dirty on a lot of kind of probably, I guess you could say, commercial maintenance, so within shopping centres. So you could literally go from doing, you know, the old deer down the road at tap washers to driving in and doing, you know, a fire service burst or something along those lines, or a shopping centre that's just been flooded, or sewage running down the hallway of a shopping centre, which you know, so you're exposed to a whole stack of different elements and different areas of plumbing.
Something different every day.
Every day, yeah, which you know is exciting. You don't know.
And are you still doing the same stuff?
Yeah, so look, I'm still doing kind of work within schools, so it's definitely still maintenance side of things, and a lot of real estate work now. And then I've built up with, I guess you could say, a number of clients that have kind of led on to other things, where now we've just started to dabble in, I guess you could say, high-rise maintenance.
Oh, buildings, taking care of buildings?
Buildings, you know.
Apartment blocks and that sort of thing?
Apartment blocks and body corporates and that kind of stuff. So, which, you know, 12 months ago I would have never even dreamed of being at this place yet. So things have progressed very quickly.
Quicker than you thought?
Much quicker than I thought, mate.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, definitely. And it hasn't come with ease, but it's definitely, it's a new challenge every day, and I love it.
So I've had a wide range of people, as you know, on Trench Talk, and one of the things that always comes up is that they tend to always have this period in their life where they work really, really, really hard, and that becomes their major focus. Would that describe the last 12 months for you?
Yeah, definitely.
And what sort of hours are we talking? What sort of lengths have you gone to get the work done? Because it's tough the first year, right?
Yeah, most definitely. And look, mate, this is where, you know, growing your business is a constant balancing act, as you know, because one day you have 18 hours work and the next day you don't know if you've got work. So I guess probably how it all snowballed for me was I left my previous boss. I knew I wanted to go into business. My wife had just fallen pregnant. I knew that if I didn't do it right now, it wasn't going to happen. So I took, you know, I took the weight on my shoulders, and I was very fortunate enough that my wife is very supportive of that, and she said, "I've got 9 months of work ahead of me. You know, we can make this work." And so I did. I had her as my backbone. And basically, I had nothing, mate. I had no connections. I had kind of no work ahead of me. So here I was sitting at home. I went out and bought a ute. I went out and bought one of my business models at the start was to try and keep those expenses low.
Yep.
Okay, so I was keeping the vehicles and the tools down to a minimum, okay? And what I mean by that is you do see a lot of guys kind of jumping in the latest and greatest ute. Well, look, I went out and bought a ute. I bought something that was clean, that when I turned up, it looked professional, but it wasn't going to remortgage my house on.
You said you didn't have any contacts?
Yep.
Really at all?
Not really at all. I had one or two. Sorry, I did have contacts in terms of other plumbers, but obviously didn't want to step on their feet. But I was fortunate enough to have one contact who managed to organise a meeting. He was slowing up, or he was starting to dabble in other things, and he basically set up a meeting with one of his clients that was quite important to him. And he thought it was a good opportunity for me to possibly step in his boots and continue the service that he was giving. Now, that was 2 weeks after I went into business. I managed to have a job a day. Every single day I was going out for about an hour in that first 2 weeks, and I was just doing tiny little jobs, $100 here, $100 there, in and out, and I was starting to, I guess you start to doubt yourself and your choices. And he gave me this opportunity to introduce myself to Kay and Burton, if they don't mind me saying. And look, I sat down in the office,
which is a
real estate agent,
premium real estate agent in Melbourne, who sells a lot of the top properties.
Yep.
You would say in this statewide, and one of their directors has been on this podcast.
Yeah. Funny enough.
So
yes.
It's funny how things work out. But anyway, you can go back to, I think it would be episode 4, I think is, we had Ross on. We talked about his journey and how he's done it. So you had the introduction?
Yes, had the introduction, sat down with the team of property maintenance managers there, and to be honest, mate, I felt like a little naughty schoolboy. I hadn't put myself
dragged into the office.
Yeah, I hadn't, and suddenly I was exposed. Within 5 minutes, I was exposed to a new element of business, which working for someone, I never had to really prove myself or sell myself. And I left that office and with the most bizarre feeling, because I thought, I don't know if that went as well as I would have liked it to. As you know, you can never control these situations. But I had a gut feeling deep down that I knew I was onto something good, and I couldn't let this opportunity slip. And it was an opportunity that I'd been fortunate enough to be given, but it was also an opportunity for me to prove myself. So basically, I live not on the other side of town, but I do live probably, a good 30-minute drive from that particular office in South Yarra or Toorak. And the next day I got up at 7:30 and I thought, if something comes to this, I'm going to make it happen. And I drove across to around the corner from the office, and I sat there and I waited in my car for the first job to come in via email.
So you went down there. You didn't actually have a job. You went down.
I didn't have a job.
Fingers crossed that the phone would ring.
Fingers crossed, and I sat in my car, and I think I bought the 7-Eleven coffee because
keep expenses low,
keeping those expenses low, and awesome. And sat there, and fortunate enough, one came in. And
do you remember what it was? What was the job?
It was a roof leak.
Okay.
It was a roof leak that came in, and I sent an email back within 2 minutes, I reckon it was, saying I'd contacted the tenant of this particular property and I was on my way. And I went there and I sorted the job out. I fixed it as promised, and really tried to emphasise on providing a good service, polite service, clean. I turned up. That's one thing I really pride myself on with my business is everyone has clean uniforms. Although we're doing dirty work, we need to be clean. And I completed the job, and I called the property owner and said, you can notify the landlord, it's all been fixed. And that was done within an hour and a half, Matt.
Yeah.
And this particular property manager basically said to me, I've got another one. So off I went again, and then again. And I think that first day I ticked 3 jobs. And I drove home, and I knew this was it. I knew this was my opportunity. Still didn't have a job tomorrow, but I did that particular day.
So did you say you got 2 or 3 that first day?
3.
3 the first day?
3 that first day. Okay.
That's not bad.
No, it was it was more than I'd had, and it was really exciting. So then I turned around and woke up the next day, did the same thing, drove across. And then I think, then it might have gone 1 for the next day, then 5, then 6, and then suddenly it just started to roll. I got introduced to more people, more property managers.
Within the office and the organisation?
Within the office and the organisation. And I know this is said a million times on this podcast, but good people introduced me to good people. And I provided a service that I knew purely stood by the values and the morals of K & Burton Real Estate Agency, which they pride themselves on. And I just slipped in. And I slipped in because I focused on their values, service, providing a good culture, okay, by turning up and presenting myself with I guess you can say, some form of class, you know. I know we are plumbers, and it's easy to forget that at times because we are in some pretty tight underneath houses or in dirty trenches and all that. But, you know, had a new outfit in the car for the next job, ready to go. And that just basically snowballed from there, Matt, which then followed into suddenly you're doing work on properties and it involves, an apartment above, which is then owned by another real estate agency. And now you're involving yourself with another real estate agency that then they go, God, this guy's really onto it. God, he's proactive. He's taken a problem off our desk and he solved it. And let's be honest, that's good service. If you can take a problem off someone's desk and it's one less thing for them to deal with at the end of the day because they've got enough to deal with, they're going to ring you again. When you start creating more problems for other people is when your business is starting to fail.
Yeah, you definitely want to be solving them, not creating problems.
That's right, yeah.
So your first month you sort of rolled along 2s and 3s and turned into 5s and 6s and and when did you think, you know what, this is great, this is going good here? Did you get that feeling initially, or did it take a while to?
Well, look, I must say, so I had this wonderful opportunity, okay, with the real estate industry, I guess you could say, and I got in and I was really starting to get that under control. Okay, the people that I was working for, the people I was interacting with, all seemed quite happy with my service, and they were generally happy.
Yep.
Now, in that first 2 weeks of business, one thing that's funny, Matt, that completely changes is I suddenly went from one of my strengths, I guess you could say, was I had all this time. You know, it's funny, 15 months later, I don't have any time now, but basically I had all this time. So in that first 2 weeks, I got online, I found out school principals' names, just names and faces. It's amazing what you can find out online. And I made phone calls. Oh, is there any chance I can pop by later this afternoon and just introduce myself?
So when you're in between jobs, waiting for that phone to ring,
creating more work,
that you're out there kind of putting irons in the fire.
Yeah. Well, why not? You got nothing to lose. That time is make it valuable. When you leave the house, make every single minute of every single day valuable.
Yeah.
And so basically went out. I hadn't met half of these people. Knocked on the doors of a couple of schools and a couple of, I guess you could say council organisations and all that kind of business, and introduced myself and said, will you give me a go? And it's amazing how many people aren't happy with the service that they're receiving from particular contractors or whatever it may be. And everyone said the same thing. They said, Ben, all I ask is for you, when you say you're going to turn up, and can you please answer my phone calls? And how easy is that?
Why is that such a problem? Because in this trade business that we're both a big part of, people were saying that 10 years ago, 15 years ago, I know, and it was probably 20 years and 30 years ago, they were saying the same thing. Do you have any thoughts on why we haven't got that a little bit better?
I think what it is it's a prime example of where I'm at with my business is there's so much work out there to be done, and you find yourself becoming a yes man to everyone without putting in any form of structure within your business. Now, everyone says this to me, and I'm a perfect example of it at this point. Everyone says, Ben, work on your business. Work on your business. Now, I need to find that time, but sometimes it is easier when you're having a bad day to go and fix a burst pipe.
Yeah.
It really is, because as you and me know, we can do that with our eyes closed and without almost thinking.
Yeah.
You know? Whereas working on the business does require a lot of set of skills that have almost been drilled out of us for the past however many years we've been working for people, because we just basically get in the truck every day and go and do our thing.
Go home, don't think too much about it.
Don't think and don't overthink it, you know. And I think that's where, so I guess to sum it up, that question is, I think a lot of us probably get caught in the day-to-day business.
Yeah.
And once people know they're onto a good thing with a tradesman, they will jump on board with it because of the lack of that service within the industry, unfortunately.
So do you know, for yourself, do you try and spend more time now working on your business?
I do. Look, I try and allocate night time, which I find personally, it's different for everyone. I find that probably the most beneficial time to work on the business, because I can sit there and enjoy that process after dinner. The phone's not constantly ringing. I'm not getting distracted by other things. That's, I guess you could say, me time in terms of actually reassessing constantly. Now, I promised myself that I was going to reassess after 12 months when I started.
Oh, so you gave yourself that time frame?
I gave myself 12 months.
By that point, you had a new daughter in your life as well?
Yep.
So a few significant things happening there. But you gave yourself that time frame and you were going to reassess. Why did you do that?
Because I knew that I had 12 months, and I basically need to have goals. If I'm not working towards goals, what are we doing? You know, we're just getting caught in, you're becoming that same business owner that's working 18 hours a day. He's only charging out 6.
Yeah,
you know,
working really hard, going nowhere.
Working really hard and not progressing. So after 12 months, I sat down and looked at all my figures, and that's another side of things, Matt. So suddenly I've had to look into growing my knowledge on accounting and understanding profit and loss statements and all these things which I'd never kind of subjected myself to in the past. So I sat down, and it was a great opportunity to reassess, and it was actually rewarding. Because when you sit down and you actually go, you can actually see the growth, and you can see what worked and what doesn't work. And, you know, okay, we did this, we trialled this, but no, let's run with this because this is much more productive. And, you know, so it actually allows you to kind of see your strengths and your weaknesses within your business, and probably what you need to allocate more time to grow.
For yourself, do you have anything that you feel you're really strong in?
Oh, apart from being a good plumber, Matt. Look, I do think I've got an extremely good work ethic that probably, without praising myself too much, everyone would back that knows me personally.
Yep.
I think that actually reflects back to probably my childhood. I was a swimmer. So I was training kind of 14 times a week and doing long hours in the pool. Basically, those simple principles of having a goal and trying to reach a target. And I think that's carried through just in my general life.
And what sort of, with your swimming, what sort of level were you training at, racing at?
Yeah. So nationals, and then basically missed out on the Olympic trials. So then it was a reassessment of 4 years and a reassessment of my life at that point, which was my late teenage years. And I guess from there, although I wasn't probably as successful as I always dreamed I would be.
In a swimming sense?
In a swimming sense. It gave me the basic principles for all the steps in order for me to get to where I want to achieve today.
Yeah, it's funny. When I first started my own business, just recalling this now, I didn't know 100% that that's what I wanted to do forever.
Yep.
But I looked at all the people that I thought, quote, were successful, and the type of things that they did, their work ethic and all these sort of things. And then the way I thought about the first few years was, I'll just use this as my tool and try and do all these other things. So I'll develop a work ethic. If they work long hours, then I'd work long hours, and I'd try and do that as much as I could. And I just figured that if you got those foundations in place, then if really big opportunity came up or whatever, you'd have all those things in your toolkit.
Yep.
And
you're ready to face it.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. That's what I think. That's what the journey of trying to self-improve is all about. You constantly, every single day, you're getting up, and let's be honest, you get knocked down. Also, a lot of days that you're
that doesn't happen in small business, does it?
You do. You feel like it's funny. Monday you can be feeling wonderful, and Tuesday you can be kicking yourself, and it's an emotional roller coaster. But if you have all those things in place of structure and building yourself, which I think does start from a young age, I think you have the opportunity.
Set yourself up to give yourself a chance at creating something great for yourself and your family.
Perfect. And that's it.
And those around you. Was there a point in that first year where you knew this is it? I've got it covered. You knew you were going to provide well for your family. You felt like you were on a roll.
Yep. Look, definitely. And it probably wasn't. Every day was a risk. Every single day I got out of bed, I did feel like I got a mortgage, I got a child, and everything was a risk, But they're definitely probably around the 6 to 8 mark, 6 to 8 months, sorry.
Oh, yeah.
I felt that I could almost predict what was coming up next week. I knew that I had the right customer basis in place, which were giving me X amount of work. And then I was getting X amount of work from this customer and that customer. Therefore, it kept snowballing. Then what I found was I had to get help. So I had to put on someone, which presented its own challenges within itself, because suddenly I was the face of the business and I was providing this service. Now I had to teach someone else to be a mini-me, So he knows who he is, and he'll probably listen to this at some point, but I had to clean him up to fit into my business. And he's done a great job of that, but that sets its own challenges within the business itself.
Because it's the biggest jump in a lot of ways that you make. I used to think about this because if you got 10 employees and you go to 11, it's a 10% jump, right, in terms of your staff numbers. But if you go from 1 to 2, that's quite a significant jump and strain on your resources and all that. Now, granted, you have a lot more control over that because there's only 2 of you, but still for that early stage of business, that is a risk to take, and you do have to be feeling you're on the right track and producing the results, and the numbers have to be there to back it, right?
And that's right. So suddenly you find yourself in this position where, okay, I've got work for him tomorrow, but now I don't have work for myself, which I think that starts to test your character, because if you're in it for the long run, well, that time is business time now. You've got to utilise, okay, you don't have a job on, but your job hasn't finished, So out again, I'll get in the truck, off I go, meeting new people, introducing myself to new people, trying to create. Another thing that I found, look, for anyone that can take anything out of this chat today, for young business owners, try and take an opportunity when you can to kind of subject yourself and create an opportunity to meet people. And what I mean by that is, as simple as in the trade, I know, in particular the other day, I know when I turn up at a particular school, I park in a particular spot. And I know that this is crazy, but I park in a particular spot because I know I walk past that particular principal every single time. And every single time she sees me, she pulls me into the office and says, "Oh, Ben, I need you to do X, Y, Z." Well, that's just another 3 days' work for our business.
Yeah.
And look, I know, people in IT or whatever it may be, but try and put yourself in that position all the time, and you'll find things start to move quickly.
Intention, isn't it? That's what it is behind your thinking, because when you can obliviously drive into a car park and get out and, mope your way inside, or you can think about it. You can park in the right spot. You can walk past the right offices. You can have a smile on your face. None of that stuff costs anything, does it?
No.
And that's your big advantage when you start, because for whatever reason, a lot of people don't do those things. The little things count.
Yeah, and they look, and that's where I've probably found, Matt, that's where my growth is. That's from those core values, and I mean, it comes back to that first 2 weeks, sitting in the car, waiting for that first job, providing a service that I know no one else can beat, because this is an opportunity I understand for a lot of other tradesmen to get involved with a particular real estate agency or company. Well, I want to be better than them because I'm going to knock on the door quicker and I'm going to do a better job than them.
So that's your same attitude today. I was going to ask you about this. So if someone listened to this chat and implemented what you're talking about, would you be worried about them coming and taking what you've built?
What I've built? Oh, look, yes, but no. Look, I do feel that there's... I would like the industry to kind of lift its game, to be honest.
As a whole?
As a whole.
Yeah, well.
As a whole. I think that plumbers in general have often worked against each other. I've been to a lot of breakfast and lunch, and it's amazing. Plumbers kind of hold information from each other as a whole, and I actually think we could provide a better industry and a better service for everyone if we utilise each other and share the information we've got. Because I'm not overly concerned if someone chooses to try and take what I got, because I do know that I'm striving for the best. So that only raises the market within the whole industry.
Yeah.
If we can do that as a whole, we're heading on the right path, I think.
Yeah. No, it's good. Good for everyone, right? So looking back now, you're 15 months in.
Yep.
Is there anything you'd do differently if you went back and started again? It seems like fundamentally, if I could just make a comment, that a time frame, a goal, all those things, you had the work ethic, they were all like put in place, whether that was consciously or not.
Yeah.
You had a number of these elements that seemed to be critical to success.
Yep.
They were all there in the start, but would you go back and change anything?
It's a funny question because I've been asked it by a couple of people lately.
Right.
I guess probably that 12 months was when I reassessed, and there was a lot of success there, okay, and there was a lot of positives, but there was a few negatives along the way, okay. In terms of a business, I have regrets in terms of spending time to implement structure. In terms of me falling back into that, it's easier to go and fix a burst pipe and do that. So therefore, that's one of my regrets in terms of making time in order to do that as the business grows.
So you regret not spending the time.
Yeah.
That's funny you should say that, because Stuart Lord, a previous guest, when he was building his company, he said the same thing. If I could go back again, I'd put a lot more structure in place.
Yep. Because
it does avoid that constant chasing your tail when you get busy down the line.
That's right. And it can be a vicious cycle, because suddenly when you have a bad day, you have a really bad day if you haven't got that structure in place. And let's be honest, it's tough enough as it is, getting out there and battling it every day. So therefore, why make it, if you can put things in place to make it easier in the long run? And that's where my business is at, is I've got to put those things in place before I choose to take on more work and more clients, because otherwise I'm going to be letting them down as well.
Is that a mentally hard thing to do?
It is, yes. Yeah, it is.
You've got to force yourself to do it.
For me, it is, yeah.
Yep.
Because I've been drilled into the culture of being a tradesman and
hands-on tools.
Hands-on tools, and
Yeah.
I think in your introduction there's a mention by Scotty Cam. I was good on the tools, but not good at sitting down and doing the book work kind of
the
thing.
business skills,
The business skills, yeah, something along those lines. So, and it is, you get caught up in that because you don't want to let your customers down, but you'll let yourself down. But therefore, in the long run, if you let yourself down, you're going to let the customer down.
And you can tell in the way you talk about it, you actually do genuinely care for these people, right? Your customers.
100%, Matt, because if I don't have these customers, I don't have a business.
Yeah.
So to me, the customer is the core heart of the business in terms of being there on time, getting the job done properly, charging the adequate amount. You know, there's probably the worst advice I heard from a guy in trade school. You know, you hear a lot of things when you're in trade school, but he said one day,
some of them are even true.
Oh, my boss has been in business for he's been in business for 2 weeks, and he's God, we're killing it. You know, he just gets in and out of every job. You know, there's so many people out there that you'll make a fortune. You just take what you can get and go to the next one. Now, not for me. That's not my structure, my business model. My business model is I walk into your house, I never want you to call another plumber.
Yep.
Not to say you're mine, but any issue you have, and even if any advice I can give you, anything, I'm only ever a phone call away. And in retrospect, that falls into my client base, I think, because I found myself in a rental property, for example, where that person may be renting quite a nice property or whatever, but they own 25 other properties. Now, they're not paying for my time there, and they're just the renter, I guess you could say. But they're so happy with the service that when I leave, I get their 25 other rental properties underneath my business name. And that's growth, and that's consistent growth, because you're constantly subjecting yourself to, I guess, striving for the best.
You seem to have developed a real skill for picking up on opportunities like the networkings that you've touched on a number of times. All these things that don't actually cost any money, right?
That's right. And I'll tell you something, Matt. I've never advertised. I've never spent any money advertising, and it's not to say I won't in the future, but a small business doesn't have a cash flow that can afford to, to go out and spend on lavish things, or what I would call lavish at this point in my business, of advertising and that kind of thing, because we're at the base of it all. We're really doing the long hours, doing the grind in each day, grind out, and constantly trying to grow in order to get to a better place, to provide for my family and to create a better life for not only myself but also my employees. I want to create a culture where everyone that works underneath me is happy to come to work. And I think that that's really important within my business structure, because if they're happy to come to work, well, they're going to smile when they knock on the door at that first customer's house.
Yeah.
Because they're happy to be there. So financially give them incentives. They've got a family and they've got mortgages and everything too. Don't try and be too, greedy, I guess you could say. And then therefore you're not constantly retraining, because if you jump on board with me and you're the right person, well, I want you to be my employee for the next 10 years. I don't want you to go and look for another job, because I want you to be part of what I'm trying to create.
It's quite interesting. I've said this before in this podcast, that people who are successful in business quite often have a very large view, a wide view, I guess you could say, of what's going on.
Yep.
They don't often think about it from a me perspective.
Yep.
And you're talking about your employees' families, your customers' families, the homes they live in. Like it's almost like this is going to sound a bit funny or a bit soft to say this, but it's like you're in the business of caring for other people, right?
Definitely. And it's as simple as, Matt, you're opening your door and letting us into your home, which I've always found kind of not bizarre, but it's quite a personal thing to walk into someone's home, especially if you're not home and you've got your wife and your kids at home or whatever it is, and the kid's getting bathed and it's 7:30 in the morning and the plumber's got to turn the water off. Or we've got to create an environment where they feel in their own environment, that they feel comfortable.
Yeah.
And that's really important too, because if they do, if you create that environment, then therefore, not that you can charge what you want, but they're happy with your service. So therefore, bills aren't questioned, to a certain degree, because they know that they're happy with. It's when people start getting unhappy that they start questioning things.
Well, good stuff snowballs like bad stuff snowballs,
but
right?
Yeah, that's exactly right.
So if you don't finish jobs correctly and you take shortcuts and on time and turn up late and all that sort of stuff, then you're in it. I can say it personally, in my experience, then that leads to problems.
Yeah, and it definitely does, and that's where, as your business grows, I will just touch on one thing. I think it might have been earlier in our chat. You said to me, or it might have been the other day, if you get 98% correct, that's a really good effort, 98%, because if that means that out of 100 jobs, 98 people are happy. I 100% agree. Like, I can't, to strive for the best is that. The only thing that from that you got to, I think, be cautious of, well, when you're timesing that by 3, instead of having 2 customers unhappy, now you've got 6.
Yeah.
And that's where controlling the structure of the business, controlling the clientele that you're walking into the house and controlling that service becomes really important, because you've just subjected yourself to 6 unhappy people now.
Yeah.
When you're by yourself, it's easy. You can do 100%.
Yeah.
You know that. When you get, the next bloke on, it might drop to 98%. When you've got 10 blokes on, are you hitting 80? Are you hitting 80% now?
Yeah.
Which is still a fantastic, don't get me wrong, because we're striving to be the best, but you're subjecting yourself to a lot more.
Well, it's a simple numbers game, isn't it? You have more employees and there's going to be, by extension, more things to deal with, whether it be good or whether it be bad.
So I think that's probably something that I've really got to work on, because, okay, 98% for me, well, I should be 100%. And the bloke below me, he knows nothing but 100% because it's come from me. So
from the top down.
From the top down, that's the idea anyway. I know it all seems a bit when we're just talking about plumbing, but it does seem at times, I guess you could say, that I'm trying to probably achieve something that might be impossible, but aim for the impossible, I guess you could say. You've got nothing to lose.
That's exactly right. No, you don't. What about on let's get really day-to-day for a minute.
Yep.
You've got jobs coming in from different angles.
Yep.
Different locations, different types of jobs.
Yep.
There's a couple of you running around. I know you've talked about expanding even further.
Yep.
How do you organise and manage your day?
Okay, so plumbing's a world of emergencies. No one calls a plumber unless they want a plumber right now, is what I always say. And that's true. So what I do try and do is book up those people that need to be booked up within the business for the day. I do try and keep myself floating free.
So you plan your days the night before, is that what you're saying?
Generally within 2 days before, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, okay. Within 2 days before, and I always leave the afternoons open.
Right.
Now, I know I was actually speaking to one of the building managers who ran a business at one of the places that I work at, and he said, Ben, you're leaving your afternoon open. God, what happens if nothing comes in? And I said to him, well, it is catch-22, because if nothing comes in, it does cost me, I guess you could say, because I've got a bloke cleaning his van or doing something that's probably not bringing in money. But in order to provide that service for the customer basis that I have, I want to be able to, for one of my customers to call me up at 8 a.m. and I say, yep, I'll have someone there at 1:30 that afternoon. That's what I provide. And so
you leave the afternoons open not because it's not being slack at all. It's actually so you can improve your service.
So we can improve the service, And I've sat down and I've looked at the business, and I can almost say we're going to get X amount of calls by lunchtime. 5 come in, let's say, just for example, 2 are going to need to be completed that day.
And that's just directly from your what you do, your track record. You just know that's going to happen.
Yeah. And that's just experience, like in terms of experience of watching your business in and out. That's not something you can probably teach yourself. Only time will show that.
So running a small business can be pretty stressful at times.
Yep.
We've all had moments where we wanted to throw in the towel, and probably multiple times on the same day in some instances.
Yep.
Is there anything you do outside of directly working on the business that you feel allows you to be at your best at work, whether that be is there a diet component, an exercise component, anything like that you feel gets you ready?
Look, I think I've always exercised, okay, from a kid with the swimming days, but I've always followed that through. And it's funny, I'm definitely not as fit as I used to be by any means, but I could almost not run for 2 weeks, and I can put my runners on and go and run 10, 15, 20 kilometres if you said you had to run it.
Yep.
And that's purely because I can get myself in that zone where something switches off in me or something, and I can just continue once I'm running. So look, I do try and exercise, Matt, on a regular basis.
Are we talking every day? Are we every other day?
Look, I kind of strive for now 3 times a week at minimum, and now that's only changed just because I've got a child in my life now, and so it does become a hard thing of allocating time to keeping yourself healthy, but also you got to allocate a lot of other things come into play. You know, allocating time for your relationship, you know, and allocating time to spend time with the kid. And you know, that's important for everyone around you, because if you don't have that network of support around you, how's your business going to run? If the world's collapsing around you, you can't run your business.
Your own business can be a lonely place to be, right?
Oh, it's
without any of those issues.
It is
as well.
Yeah, the world of I've never felt so alone, mate. In 12 months, the first 12 months is really, at the end of the day, it's down to what you want.
I'm not sure how many people have said that to me in the last 12 months, but new business owners, even people who have had extended careers and then go to work for themselves.
Yep.
Just that lonely feeling of being being top of the tree. And when you're aspiring to be there, it's something you don't consider, but probably why, you know, there's a lot of groups and stuff you can be involved with now, and coaching and that sort of thing, just to help you get through those things. Because when you're sitting in the van or truck or whatever, and there's no jobs, and you're by yourself, it can be a hard place to be.
It really is, and that's why I can't stress enough to try and build those relationships with people. And it's funny how many people, once you get your name out there, there's a lot of people that want to help you. You know, they've been through it, and I don't know why, but they feel this need to contribute back to the next bloke who's about to go through it. And I think it is because they do know how lonely it is. You know, perfect example was, you know, I got another building or whatever to do some maintenance on, and I got in my car and I was so excited, and who do I call? You know, and so I called a bloke that I previously worked with, and to share that excitement, because I didn't have, and it is funny, like in the world of business, I only knew that he would share that excitement with me because, you know, I love my wife dearly, but, you know, she's going to say, as he said, I said, "Oh, I'm sorry I called you, I just wanted to let you know." And he goes, "Oh, yeah, I understand." The wife's probably just going to say, can you pick up some bread on the way home when you share that kind of excitement? And that's when something like that happens, it hits you on the head and you go, wow, I'm in this alone, and those people are more important to you than you actually realise. You know? So
important to form those networks.
Yeah, definitely.
If you could click your fingers and have it all done, where are you in 10 years, ideally?
Ideally, I have got a 10-year plan. Sometimes it involves plumbing, sometimes it doesn't, depending on my day. But my 10-year plan is to, I guess, probably provide a better life for my family, firstly, for, you know, financially, but also do the hard yards now so that I am at the dance concert or whatever it may be later on in life, when you know, those things are important to them because they're important to me. So therefore, create a better lifestyle for them. But also, I just love what I do in terms of, if I can create a better life for those that work for me, for those that are around me, that brings me pleasure. So therefore, I probably see myself in 10 years, and I know that this is probably the dream, but to have the ideal business where everyone, you know, 98% of people are happy working for me. They come, they want to be involved, and run a business that has structure. It allows me to have more time with my family. Still happy to get dirty, still happy to put in some long hours, but probably a little bit more on my terms, in terms of I can pull the pin on Tuesday at 3 o'clock and pick the kids up from school.
So you're thinking about those things already, which is awesome.
Yeah. Long-term goals.
So a couple more questions and then we'll wrap up, Ben.
Yep.
The one question that I ask everyone, if you'd have one law changed, what would it be?
Yeah, so look, I wouldn't say it's probably a law, but what I would like maybe the government or someone to put into place is, look, I just went to the local high school and I was never subjected to business. And what I mean by business is I was never subjected to, when they say business, you hear a little bit about accounting and numbers. I would like to see something implemented within the younger children today of ideas and getting those ideas off the ground, and maybe incentives in terms of, because I do think the younger generation, to take a risk, it's easier to take a risk when you're young.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I've definitely found that out in this process. And if they could have a bit more backing, I think that would be wonderful, because it would result in more business, more job opportunities for other people.
Innovation, everything that leads to.
And everything that leads to success, So I think that if we had some form of support or backing from there, it would really help out.
Do you have any favourite book or documentaries you can recommend? Are you a reader?
Oh, look, Matt, I'd be silly to say if I do read a lot. I'm constantly on self-improving, so I am starting to read a lot of accounting books and that kind of thing to allow me to grow within my business. But if you open my side drawer, Matt, you'd probably you'd find a lot of Braemar manuals and Brivus ducted heating manuals and that kind of thing. So I do a lot of reading in that kind of sense. In terms of books,
just so I can understand properly, when you climb into bed at night and break open a hot water service manual and start to scan through it, what sort of reaction does that bring from your wife who lies next to you?
From the wife next to me, she just rolls her eyes and turns over and goes, But yeah, look, she's always supported me, and she knows I'm a bit of an odd character at heart. I guess we've all got our things, but I guess for me, it allows me for the next day when the next bloke calls up and says, I've got this error on the screen, I can tell him over the phone. And that's knowledge, and that knowledge is power, which is a lot of, comes up constantly in these podcasts, but knowledge is power.
Do you have any advice for young men, women who are just embarking on a career that are dedicating to making it a successful one? Is there anything you can suggest they do?
I wouldn't page myself as successful yet. I'm hoping I'm on the path to it, and a couple of tools, I guess you could say, that I've felt have helped me is definitely work ethic. Secondly, set yourself some goals, and for my business, I did find if you focus on the customer, the financial rewards will come, but don't focus on the week-to-week financial rewards at the beginning of it all, because if you're really in it, you'll be leading to bigger things later on in your life.
So take that longer-term view on those things. Sound advice. Now, is there anything, any parting words, anything you want to say before we wrap this up, Ben?
I guess, for anyone listening, I hope you got something out of this, but any young business, get out there and get going.
And have a go.
Have a go, because it's not easy. There's a long road ahead of you, but it's definitely an exciting road, and you never know, As I said, Monday can be a dream day, Tuesday can not, but Wednesday you might bump into someone who, offers you another opportunity. So just when you feel down and you feel like you get knocked down, just keep getting up, and keep going. But apart from that, I guess, thanks, Matt, for having me today.
So work hard, set some goals, and focus on those longer-term objectives, and the money hopefully takes care of itself. Now, if someone wants to find you directly, how do they get in contact?
So you can via email, which is Ben, BENWH, at AquaBluPlumbing.com. Now, that blue has no E.
Awesome. All right, well, I'm going to let you get back to the tools and your day and whatever else you've got planned. Thank you, Ben, for dropping in and doing this and taking a bit of time to share what I know you don't think it's very valuable right now because you're just embarking on this journey, but there's a lot of people, and we run into them both daily, who are thinking about taking the plunge, who have just taken the plunge, who are not quite sure what to do, who are feeling lonely, who are going through that. One day is up, the next day is down, all those sort of things. And if we can just, I suppose, make one more note that all of that stuff is like completely normal.
Yep.
You're not on your own.
You're not alone.
You're not alone. You're not on your own. You're not alone. So it's all part of the journey. But I know for myself that when you go through that and you do it well and you feel like you put in your best efforts, the rewards do come down the
Most definitely.
track. So,
most definitely.
and that's in a variety of different ways as well. So anyway, Ben, I'm going to let you get back to your day. Thanks
Wonderful.
again.
Yeah, thanks for your time, Matt.
Cheers,
Thank
mate.
you.
Hey everybody, it's Matt again. Thanks for listening. Just a couple of things before you guys clock off. You can get all Trench Talk episodes at xrm.com.au/podcast. You can also sign up for other goodies at the same site. Just plonk your email in there and you are covered. That's X for X-ray, R for Romeo, M for Mike.com.au/podcast. If you really like what I'm bringing you, please head to iTunes, subscribe to this show and leave a review right there. And lastly, if you want to contact me directly, type the @ symbol followed by Mr. Matt Reynolds into your search bar and you'll find all the social links. Goodbye.